So not eating the meat was a game changer for me. And I went into practice like the next day. I felt amazing, felt light. I was running fast.
Hey there, Empowered Vegan Lifers. Ella here, and I am here with our very special guest today, Chad Weller. Chad is a former professional athlete, high-performance life coach, and motivational speaker. And I am fortunate to be able to call him a longtime friend. Chad, thanks for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, it's good to see you.
Likewise.
And I was just talking to Chad about the fact that on episode number 3, I interviewed Ann, and Chad is also on the board for Hogs and Kisses Farm Animal Sanctuary. So it makes sense to have you on right now, Chad.
Amazing.
So can we start? I know you've got this really incredible story. I always like to start with, what's your going vegan story? And that can relate to, I know that's a huge, huge question because it can relate to pretty much everything in your entire life. But could you just start us out with your story?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and I grew up going to my grandparents' farm every single weekend and spent a lot of time with the animals. And it was just one of my favorite memories of my childhood. And I remember I played basketball in high school and baseball, and we would always go to lunch, and I would always have like 3 or 4 hamburgers. And it was my junior year in high school, and we were getting ready for a big game, and we would always go to this burger place. And my girlfriend at the time, she was vegetarian, and we sat down, and she's like looking at me like really weird. And she's like, "You're going to eat all that?" And I was like, "Yeah, this is what I typically do for lunch. I have 4 hamburgers or 3 hamburgers and, like getting ready for the game." They're not great big hamburgers. They're just like whatever size. It was probably like 4 hamburgers. Like what? Anyway, so she bet me that day. She's like, "I bet you can't go a week without eating meat." And mind you, we would sit down with my family every single night for dinner. We would always have steak, roast, and we'd always have something that had to do with meat because my dad would get it from the slaughterhouse, which was connected to my grandparents' farm. So I remember sitting down. I was 17 years old. I remember sitting down, and they were passing around. It was a steak for dinner, and I didn't eat steak. And my parents were like, "Well, what's going on with you? Like, well, why aren't you eating meat?" And I was like, "Well, it's a bet with my girlfriend, and I'm not going to eat meat for a week." I felt incredible the next day. I felt amazing, and I was just like, maybe this is. And I've always loved vegetables. We always had a garden, so I always vegetables are always like my first choice. But always having meat, you're just in Ohio. You're raised to eat meat is like most important nutritional, and there was no nutrition really in our family, but it was just like eat what's on the table, eat the meat. So not eating the meat was a game changer for me. And I went into practice like the next day. I felt amazing, felt light. I was running faster. I felt like I was making more shots. I actually had one of my best games going into that game the following week. And then I was just kept doing it, and I just kept feeling better and better. And then I stopped eating fish. This is progressing like over, 2 months, 3 months, stopped eating fish. The hardest thing for me was the cheese, because the farm and like my uncle, and we were always on weekends, there was always cheese around too. So there was like meat and cheese, just a ton of it. So that was the start of me getting really into it and just starting to feel better. I just started sleeping better. I love the challenge of like sitting down and like choosing not to eat meat. I felt like really empowering, and it was a great transition. It was definitely a challenging transition because everywhere I went, no matter if it was my friends or my friend's house, there was always had to do with meat. But I really was just embracing it. And when I started my senior year and going into college, I started learning more about nutrition.
Got it. Okay. And you don't care if I date you, right? Like how
No.
long have you been vegan now?
25 years.
All right. Because I've been vegan. It'll be 25 years this year because I was 15 and I'm turning 40 this year.
Amazing.
So this is my big 4-0. And my plans got totally screwed by COVID.
Oh no, sorry.
Yeah. Can I just share?
Yeah, 100%.
I, I had 15th row seats. Christian, my boyfriend, got his 15th row to hear Alanis Morissette on her 25th 25th year anniversary of Jagged Little Pill, my favorite
No
album of
way.
all time, on my birthday, on the day
No.
of my birthday, which is a Tuesday, at the Hollywood Bowl.
No way.
Oh yeah, all planned
Canceled.
out. Canceled. They say we might not have concerts for like a year and a half, 2 years.
That's what they said, yeah.
That's sad.
Well, now you can come visit me now next time, because I'll be out there and we'll go.
I still have plane tickets. I mean, by June, I should be able to at least travel. So yeah, who knows? Maybe
Cool.
That'll happen. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. back to you. So you've been vegan 25 years. Can I ask you about being a male and vegan, especially, back then? Because it was weird enough, right, to most people that anyone was vegan. But even today, there's still stereotypes. Men eat meat. They're macho. That's the thing to do. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I got a lot of shit for it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I still get a lot of stuff for it, but from my friends. But it really, I had to figure out a belief system that I was attached to, like my why. Like, why am I going this way? And that's when I really started to, again, study the nutritional piece. I was modeling at the time, and I had an opportunity. That's why I moved to Miami Beach, and I was modeling around the world. So that was, when I lived in Italy and all these, it was a lot easier to make those choices. Vegetables are good for you, right? So it was also a lot easier to stay in shape, feeling healthier, feeling better. But back then, you couldn't go to a restaurant and say you're vegan, especially in another country. They'd be like, well, what? Like, so, I would say the first 12 to 15 years of doing this was really having to be creative at home, but also having to be creative of being out. I was also in the restaurant business and the nightlife business. So you always had to either simplify a menu, just go right to the sides. It was difficult. I'm not going to lie. It was difficult, and could be frustrating. There would be some times, and I love traveling, going to other countries. It was, you just had to go for the fruits and vegetables. You couldn't get too creative in other countries, but I just chose to make the best out of it. And then I started learning about the animal piece of it. And that was really impactful. And that was, I would say, around 3 years into me being a vegan and really stepping into my truth and my passion behind it, and really finding my purpose behind it. And it was all integrated together around, how the animals are treated, how the environment is treated. And that has grown exponentially over the years of just people being educated. And I'm still on the educational journey of learning more about how I choose to eat my foods and why. And I see a lot of other people doing that, and it's really powerful. I'll back up real quick, because as a man too, I made a lot of shitty choices. In my story, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And in my story, I always talk about being vegan for 25 years. Well, there's this chunk of maybe 5 or 6 years when I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And there's like, so how are you really vegan? And then you made this choice to party with rock stars and literally had this rock star life, but then you chose to eat carrots, but you could put stuff up your nose and smoke weed and drink until you passed out. That was a really hard time in my life where I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who I was. And actually the veganism part of it was the only thing that I could connect to. That was the only thing that kept me, like, I was attached to that piece. Like, I wasn't letting that go. Which I look back and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Even though you made a lot of shitty choices and partied and did a lot of things, you still maintained your ethical rights of being a vegan and being healthy. But fortunately, I've been sober 11 years now, and I'm fully stepping into the cleansing and the cleaner part of being vegan.
Well, you just took the question. I was trying in my head to figure out how to ask that question and about the relationship between, being vegan and then the addictions. So thank you.
Yeah,
You
you're
took that
welcome.
off my hands. But I would like to explore that a little more because I can certainly relate, and I know a lot of our empowered vegan lifers can relate as well. It's interesting, and I'm still trying to figure that piece out for myself, how I could go and do so many things that were harmful to myself, yet stick to that veganism. And I kind of think of it as my savior in a way.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel? Is that in the same direction? Can you tell
Yeah,
that?
100%. That's one thing that I never felt I lost. I kept that with me. I was really lost in my life. I was really lost to who I was, but I still held on to that piece of eating right and um, just keeping me somewhat connected to who I was and what mission I was on. And that really coming full circle is when I started becoming more spiritually connected to myself and starting to find my truth, starting to find my power. That was one of the most things I was so grateful for not letting go of, because I have this purpose behind the whole veganism thing. And it really helped me, like, it allows me to take a step back and just say, you know what, you did a lot of fucked up things, but you didn't completely fuck up everything. I mean, I've been to rock bottom. I've tried to commit suicide. I've overdosed on drugs. I've done the most destroyable things you could to your body. And I was able to learn from that. And now I'm obviously making better choices, but if I didn't have any of that, I felt like maybe that would have been, it would have just added up and it might not have been so great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I do want to talk about purpose for a moment. One of the things that we work on in our 6-month plant powered coaching program, we talk about how food and fitness is really the easy part of all of this, right?
Yeah.
It's finding yourself, finding your purpose, finding what fulfills you, that will take us to the next level. Can you talk about how you found that purpose and maybe talk a little bit more about the rock bottom and how you went up from there?
Yeah, 100%. I think going in 2009 is when everything was at my lowest point ever. I literally ran into a 50-foot brick wall and almost lost my life. I had multiple surgeries. I was going to prison for a year. I was in deep shit, and I didn't have any other choices besides to change my life right then and there. So for the first time in my life, I started to go inward instead of all this superficial shit that I was in the modeling world, the nightlife, Miami Beach, and traveling the world. Everything was exterior. It was all like, okay, so how do I look here, and what's going to do here, and what's this going to make me look here? It was all superficial. It was nothing I was connected to internally. So this is when I started to do the looking inward work, and the vegan piece was a really important part of that because it was something I still had. I never let go of, and it was really powerful to help me transition and transform into the person I am today. But in 2010, right after the accident, about a year later, after I got help, went to AA meetings, started getting more clean and learning about how to deal with feelings, how to deal with life, how to deal with not having an addiction. I found ultra marathons, and ultra marathons was my way of self-discovery for me. I don't recommend it for everybody, but it was a really powerful tool for me to go get lost in the woods, running distances up to 100 miles, working with some of the top nutritionists in the world to figure out how do you run 100 miles on a vegan diet. And nobody knew back then. Like, nobody really understood. There was one good gentleman that had done it. Maybe there's more than one, but Scott Jurek, who is a vegan ultra runner. And so I followed his steps and like his methodology around it. But that really helped me those challenges helped me look inward on who I was to connect with my purpose. And my purpose was about, okay, well, wow, if you hit rock bottom, you almost lost your life 5 times. You were able to do all these things over a certain amount of time to find yourself, find your purpose, find your passion. My passion is helping people, and my passion and purpose is around how to live my best life. How can you help people create that in their own lives? if you've done this. So this was a pivotal time in my life. I would say the last 6 years of really that self-discovery and that self-found purpose. But I went looking for it. And I truly believe if you're somebody out there listening now, if you're looking for purpose or passion, it's like, what the fuck is that? Like purpose and passion. Like you want to, I think you truly, even around addiction or anything, you have to want it. Even around veganism, you have to want it. It's not just something you're going to dabble into and discover like if it's working or not. You have to want it and you have to commit to it because it is a game changer. It will change your life.
Amazing. And I want to talk about the ultra marathons, but just sticking on this topic for a moment, a lot of people, as you know, will say, you know, feel very frustrated and say, I don't know my purpose. How am I supposed to find it? You know, like how? If I don't know, I don't even really know what I'm passionate about. What do you say to those people?
It's within you. That's when I think we're all the creators. And if we want to create purpose and passion, again, all you have to do is look for it and create it. But it happens within. You can't go find it in a store. You can't go find it. I moved out here to Colorado 4 years ago, and I was like, okay, I'm going to find it here in the mountains. I didn't find it in the mountains. It was within me. So I think if you're out there looking and searching, search within. There's not a destination. You can't go to Bali and find your purpose. Maybe you can, but you're gonna find it within you. I think we all have it within our souls and within ourselves. It's a matter of just turning down the noise, turning out the outside world, and really tapping into your truth and your power and your strength.
Absolutely. And I think when people do talk about going on like sabbaticals and, you know, going to these amazing places and finding themselves, it's not about the place. Like you just said, it's about taking away the distractions of who they think they are because of the environment they've always lived in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Okay. So I want to talk about the athletic side of this because my mind blows every time I hear about anyone running, first of all, just a marathon, because I am just simply not a runner. And I have just accepted that fact after you coached me on running, like you're world class. And you know what? Running's just not for me. And I'm going to just be okay with that. But that being said, my mind is blown thinking about marathons, much less 50 and even 75 and 100-mile runs. Like that's insane. Can you talk about ultramarathon, the races and how you got into it and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, sure. You know, going through all this stuff, the transition, I used to hate running in high school. And when I moved to Miami, and I actually started running when I lived in Milan, and I was totally lost in Milan. I was by myself. I was a young guy. I was just constantly getting lost. So I was just like, you know what, instead of taking the subways, getting off the wrong stops and buses, why don't I just start walking? And then I ended up running. I was doing a lot of fat runway shows there, and I was just like, well, it's a great way to keep in shape, and I'm not going to get lost because I know out and back, and I know where the parks are. So that's really where my running started, because in high school, I was just like, that was like your torture for basketball tryouts and baseball. It was just like, go sprint and throw up, and you go make the team. So really, that self-discovery and running was not there in the beginning. You know, I came back to the States. I was running 5Ks and 10Ks. I trained for my first marathon. I was running terrible. I was so painful. I couldn't walk. I remember running a marathon in Paris, and we wanted to go explore afterwards. I couldn't even walk like for 2 days after the Paris marathon. I was like, this is just all wrong. I was running with my ego. I still had these bad habits. I had some good habits and then bad habits. You know, but really, everything that I talked about earlier around the transition and all my downfalls and my rock bottoms, after I got sober, I started like really focusing on the running piece, because I wasn't going to bars anymore. I wasn't going and being in actually I was, because my first 3 years of sobriety, I was still bartending in South Beach, but I was not choosing to go in and make those choices I was doing. So I was like, okay, so what can I do now? And I was like, well, I've been running for the last 12 years. Why don't you look at it into running? And I was like, well, I don't like running on the streets because it's always about my ego, or running marathons is always about my time. So I found this race in Northern California, and I ran my first 50K. And I was like, well, I'm can compete with these guys. And I started running really fast. I just ate shit the whole entire race. We were running through the mud and running through the redwoods. It was the most incredible experience, the most painful experience, but it was a 50K. It was 31 miles. And it was amazing because I had to leave my ego and I stepped into my spiritual side. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And I started looking at other people around me. I was like, everybody seems really peaceful. And this was like really intriguing to me. I was like, well, how are these guys such amazing athletes? And they have this, like, nobody's like worried about their times. And it was just, there wasn't 30,000 or 40,000 people to race. There was maybe like 50 or 100. So anyway, I went back and assessed how I was feeling and then started training for my next 50-mile race. And then it just progressed from there. And I would really love the training pieces. Like I would run anywhere from 150 to 200 miles a week. Actually, that first year is when I got sponsors. So I was like, wow, I can actually make money doing this and travel the world. This is pretty cool. And then the vegan piece was actually like a positive extension, because that brought more recognition that somebody who was running ultras and also a vegan. So it's like, well, how do you even run this distance and not eat meat for recovery? It's this whole protein thing. And I was like, well, I'm doing it. So that's, it's proving that it can be done. But I was strategic around figuring out ways that were going to work best, because when you're running for 30 hours straight, you have to learn how to eat every hour. And you're not just running a flat terrain. My races would be around, climbing 30,000 feet, descending 30,000 feet, running through snow, rain, hail. And it wasn't just like a glamorous run. It was like very painful. You're running through the dark. So you have to learn so many different things. I love that. I love planning. This is where I really found myself, because I had to persevere through the pain. I had to fight through wanting to stop at mile 10 and still had 90 miles to go. And, this helped me to stop focusing on the results. I think a lot of people, when they step into it could be a career, it could be finances, it could be a relationship, it could be veganism. They're just like, I want results. It's like, I'm going to eat carrots today and I want a 6-pack, or, like all these different things. This helped me so much from not focusing on the results, because you can't step to the starting line with another 100 people and start focusing on finishing that 100 miles, because you have a long way to go. I think every 100-mile race, I would take around 240,000 steps. That's a lot. I would burn anywhere from 15,000 to 25,000 calories. So there's a lot of things that come into play that you have to think about and disconnect from the outer noise and connect with staying focused on what one step in front of you and being present. This was really huge for me to learn about myself.
Amazing. I think, we talk about meditation, and I always talk about, at this point, yoga is my moving meditation. It sounds like running for you was that type of meditation. Is that right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, amazing. So I talk about, I have trouble sitting still, and I think a lot of people do. So meditation can seem daunting. So I always like to encourage people to look out and find things that they can do that will turn into a type of meditation. It doesn't just have to be sitting still.
Right.
And so if somebody was interested, they're hearing your story and they're like, "Ooh, I want to try running. I've tried it before and it's hard." What would you say to somebody who's just interested in getting started and kind of following on that path, not necessarily going to an ultra marathon, but just getting into running in general, as a vegan in particular?
Yeah, I think starting out slow, starting out with a mile or 2 miles, getting the proper shoes is always the most important. So you stay away from injuries, and just looking for things. Again, going back and looking for things that you might like around running. I think everybody puts this, or it could be exercise or anything that's having to challenge them a little bit. I think we always look at the things we don't like. For me, when I was out running, even I remember early stages of running, I was like, so why in the hell am I doing this? Like, this is painful. It's like, and I didn't know how to run in the beginning. And I was just like, why am I doing this? And I started feeling like this energy, these endorphins. I was like, I feel much better about myself. I'm looking better, like all these things. So I started really focusing on what I liked about running, not all the things I didn't like about running. Because if you focus on all the things you don't like, you're never going to run. It's the same with veganism. It's like, well, I'm not going to go do it because I really love I love a juicy hamburger. Well, you're going to be so far away from going to eat that plant-based hamburger or whatever. I mean, so it's just focusing, keeping it simple here, and creating that mindset where you can find it enjoyable and give it time. You're not going to go out for your first run. I've never met anybody who's gone out for the first run and been like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm a runner. I love running. It's just like, I've never heard about anybody doing that.
Yeah, me neither. That's awesome. Okay. So then moving forward, in just the last 6 years, you said that that's when you really came into yourself and really found your passion, your purpose, and you decided to, move forward, making a career out of it. And I know life coaching is such, the popular direction for people to take these days. Can you talk about that next step in your journey and how you've come to where you are now?
Yeah, for me, it was, I hired my life coach, and she was, I was a running coach. I had my own business back in Miami. And then when my agent moved me out to Boulder to train for a 100-mile race in the Rocky Mountains, I was, going through this transition of starting my life coaching business. And everybody was working with, it was about mindset. Running is all about mindsets. To train even for a 100-mile race, and you're running 60 hours a week, like there's something you have to connect with, strategizing, and optimizing your time and your energy and getting really strategic on your plan of getting there. So I was like, wow. And I started studying other people, and I was like, okay, well, I love helping people. And my coach, my life coach, has changed the whole way I look at things, and allowed me to keep going deeper inward. How can I make this into a career? Because I'm really fascinated with the amount of things I was able to accomplish in a short time. So I started diving into the high performance coaching, and I was looking at so how can I take my running career and pivot that into the life coaching piece, and not just be a life coach, but be a high performance life coach. So it's like, how do you step into your truth, into your power, but take the power of the mind and move that into the financial piece, the relationship piece, the career piece, and the personal development piece, and take your experience, my own experiences, and share that with others. And that was really a pivotal piece for me. And I was just like very clear on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do things. Because I was doing a lot of speaking when I was running professionally. I was going on stage, I was telling my story, and I was like, I started seeing that I was having a little bit of impact. It could be a community of kids or a school or a corporation. I was like, wow, like there's something here I have. So I really started diving deeper into that and started coming up with a strategic plan around becoming a high performance life coach. And it was one of the most incredible decisions I ever made for myself, because everybody I've been able to have the privilege of meeting and working with it's been extraordinary. I'm on this incredible path where it's just like every day I wake up and I'm just like, I'm here, like I'm living my dream. And it's, when I first started this, it wasn't that. It was just, it was like trying to climb up through the mud and figure out, okay, where do I want to go? How am I going to get there? But I always remembered from my running, it wasn't about the results. It's about the process. And I think if anybody is out there listening now and you're going through the process of starting to become vegan, or starting a new career, or you're going through what we're going through right now in current times, it's about taking a step back and just assessing your energy and being patient with where you're going. And I've learned to fall in love with the process. I learned back to a 100-mile race, I learned to fall in love with mile 20, 60, 80, 90, right? It's the same thing now. It's like, I'm not focusing on the results. I'm focusing on the process. That made me enjoy each and every day, only because I chose to. And I talk a lot about that within my coaching is simply just the power of choice and choosing to step into your truth. Take your time, breathe. It's not going to happen today. Maybe it does. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow, but just be patient.
Such wise words. And so now, where are you now? Every time I talk to you, Chad, you've got so much going on. I can hardly keep track of it. So right now, what are your projects? What are the things that you're most focused on? And what are some upcoming things that we can look forward to?
Amazing. Yes. Thank you. My book is hopefully going to come out late fall this year. And that's very exciting. I've been working on that for quite some time. I'm launching a podcast as well in the next 3 months. Next month, I'm moving out to Los Angeles. The bigger projects I'm working on right now is just myself and the business and the little projects are coming and the business is getting, busier. So it's about being strategic with where I'm going and just having fun with it and enjoying the process. And the book piece is you've written a book, so you understand it. It is a process. Is it enjoyable? I make it enjoyable. Yeah, but I'm really excited for that to come out late fall. So yeah.
Well, I'm very, very excited to read it.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm doing a sprint round, and I thought of you when I named it because it could have been, a lightning round, but I said, no, let's do a sprint round because running, and I thought of Chad. So I got 5 questions for you, and and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Is that cool?
Sure.
Okay. What's a food you could eat every single day for the rest of your life?
Carrots.
Name a famous vegan you really admire.
Scott Jurek.
What do you find sexy?
Personalities.
A specific exercise you have a love-hate relationship with.
Push-ups.
If you were a non-human animal, what animal would you be?
Cow.
Interesting. And that was the last one. Why cow? What made that?
I love cows. Since I was a little guy, I love cows. Going to my grandparents' farm and helping them and going out and bailing. There was just something around how cows can just go out and roam. And living here in Colorado, I have an amazing view of hundreds of cows, and I always run by them. And I just find them fascinating. They're super smart. They're just beautiful creatures. And I've had this fascination since I was little of just being able to walk close to cows and seeing how either tiny they can be or how massive they can be. And I would just and they just roam. They just seem like they're happy and they can just go wherever they want. Their food is always right in front of them. And I don't know, they're amazing creatures.
I love that. I love that you love cows. Amazing. Well, we're going to have a few to love on pretty soon.
I can't wait.
Yes, with the sanctuary. All right. So Chad, tell us, you had mentioned that you're offering free 60-minute breakthrough sessions. Can you tell us where they can find you, where they can learn more about everything that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Very simple. Just go to my website. It's chadweller.com. And there'll be a little button you can click to book a 60-minute breakthrough session. That's just where we spend some time together, build some rapport, and talk about some of the things that are going on in your life and see if it's a good fit. But yeah, it's the breakthrough sessions are a lot of fun because we get to know each other. So
love it. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well for you guys.
Amazing.
All right. Well, that is a wrap. Thank you so much again, Chad. I have a feeling people are going to have questions. I just do. And if they do, can we get you back on to answer some questions?
100%. I would love that for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Because I'm gonna put that out there and let people ask questions and then bring you back on.
Perfect.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, and head on over to our website where we will always have a gift waiting for you, a place to leave us a message with your questions, and apply to be coached on an upcoming show. And of course, if you're loving what you hear, we would be extremely grateful if you leave us an authentic review and use the share feature to invite all the people you care about in this world to listen to. Until next time.